Good morning, everyone. I hope you're all doing good. I request you all to take very good care of you in this critical time of pandemic. In our previous video, we have seen the first part of units and dimensions. The subtopics that we have already discussed are: what is a unit? Why do we need units? What is dimension? What is a dimensional formula? What are the applications and limitations of applying units and dimensions? We have also seen various types of physical quantities, their respective units, and different systems of units as well. The study of all these things help us to learn measurements better. In this second part of this video, second part of units and dimensions, we are going to discuss and concentrate a lot on measurements. So whenever we are measuring, there is a true value and there is an actual value. That means there is an error involved in every measurement. Accuracy is not very much possible. So we are going to learn about errors and also how these errors are going to affect when we apply them in various arithmetic operations like addition, subtraction, multiplication and division. We are also going to concentrate on significant figures, why the word called significant is given to them, what is their role in deciding the accuracy of a given reading. Then we will also discuss various measuring instruments. The basic measuring instrument we are habituated from our childhood being a simple geometric scale. We will start discussing about that. Using this geometric scale concept, we will extend the discussion to measuring instruments like vernier calipers and screw gauge, which is also called micrometer. So we will learn how we have to use these various measuring instruments to measure any particular value as well. So now I list out the subtopics that we are going to see. You can see it on the screen next to you. Units and dimensions, part 2. Today's subtopics are errors and error analysis. Errors and error analysis. What is an error? The dictionary meaning or the English meaning of error is a mistake. So in measurements, whenever you are measuring, for example, when we are measuring the length of this pen, it might have a true value which is accurate. Means you have already measured with most sophisticated instruments. But when we are trying to generally measure it, there definitely will be a little difference between the true value, the actual value of the length of this pen to the measured value. I will tell you a simple example. If you take a small geometric box scale, a geometry box scale has millimeters. Suppose this is 0, you have so this is 1 centimeter. So and each the distance between two lines is equal to 1 millimeter. Okay. So during this gap of 1 millimeter, now assume that I have a pen whose length is 12.5 millimeter. I could measure using the scale. I can measure accurately either 12 millimeter or 13 millimeter. I cannot calculate or I cannot measure the 0.5 using the scale. So there are limitations of every measuring instrument which will also end up giving us a value which is not as accurate as the true value. So error can always be termed as the difference between true value and the measured value. So I can say it is true value minus measured value. Okay. So error is the difference between true value and measured value. See, for example, when we are measuring a physical quantity called P, Now let us assume A is its true value and delta A is the error in measuring the true value of A. So, delta A is the error and A is the true value. So, there is always a small variation between the true value and the measured value of P. So, P can be written as A plus or minus delta A. That means delta A is the maximum possible error when we are measuring the physical quantity P. When we are measuring the value A, there is a small deviation and the maximum possible deviation is delta A. So, the range of values of P will be from A minus delta A to A plus delta A. So, it can be, see, the delta A is the maximum possible error. It is not the error in every measurement, but the maximum possible error is A minus delta A to A plus delta A. See, I would explain the difference between error and maximum possible error with the same example of geometric box scale. See, I told you, you can measure accurately 12 millimeter and 13 millimeter. Now, suppose the length of the pen is only 12.2 millimeter. I measured it as 12. That means the error in that case will only be 0.2 millimeter. Okay. So, suppose the reading is equal to 12 millimeter when the actual value is 12.2 millimeter. So, the error delta R, the difference, the deviation in the reading R is equal to 0.2 millimeter. Suppose the actual value is 12.5 millimeter. What is delta R here? Delta R will be 0.5 millimeter. If the actual value is 12.9 millimeter, then the error that is happening here, error that is occurring is 0.9 millimeter. So, starting from 12.00001 to 12.99999 millimeter, you cannot measure the gap that is between 12 and 13. So, the maximum possible error when you are measuring with a simple geometric scale is equal to 1 millimeter, which is nothing but its least count. So, in that case, when sometimes the measuring instrument also will determine the maximum possible error. So, in this case, in the first case the error is 0.2 millimeter, whereas its value in the second case is 0.5 millimeter, in the third case it is 0.9 millimeter, but the maximum possible error is always 1 millimeter. So, when delta A is the maximum possible error when we are measuring a value A, the range of the values of A can be from A minus delta A to A plus delta A. So, the deviation, the maximum deviation in values can be 2 times delta A. This is the maximum deviation that is possible when we are measuring using a measuring instrument. So, that is 2 into delta A is the maximum deviation. Now, let me take the example of a few physical quantities and how these errors are affecting when these physical quantities are participating in arithmetic operations. So, there are 2 physical quantities. Let us say P. P is equal to A plus or minus delta A and Q is equal to B plus or minus delta B. These are the values. Delta A is the maximum possible error in P and delta B is maximum possible error in Q. This is P and Q. Now, first let us take up addition. So, you are going to find addition. P plus Q is what we are intending to find out. P plus Q will be equal to A plus or minus delta A plus B plus or minus delta B. So, the true value is going to be A plus B and the error is going to be delta A plus delta B. I would like to take a simple example. In terms of numbers, I will prove this, that Let us say P plus Q is equal to R. So R is equal to A plus B plus or minus delta A plus delta B. That means the true value of R is equal to A plus B and the maximum possible error in measuring R is equal to delta A plus delta B. Let us take as an example in terms of numbers, P is equal to 2 plus or minus 0.2 and Q is equal to 1 plus or minus 0.1. Let us take the maximum and minimum values. What is the maximum value of P? It is 2.2 and the minimum value is 1.8. And let us take it for Q as well. 1.1 is the maximum value and 0.9 is the minimum value. Let us add and see all the combinations. Let us maximum plus maximum, maximum with minimum, and minimum plus maximum, minimum plus minimum. We will add and see what are the results. When maximum and maximum are added, what is the value? We get 3.3. When maximum and minimum are added, what do we get? 2.2 plus 0.9. What do we get? 3.1. When minimum and maximum are added, what do we get? We get a value of 2.9. And when minimum and minimum are added, we get 2.7. So we got 4 values when we add all the combinations that are possible. So the maximum value of the addition is found to be 3.3, while the minimum value is found to be 2.7, which is nothing but the true value of P plus Q is nothing but 2 plus 1. The true value is equal to 3. So we got the maximum value to be 3 plus 0.3 and minimum value to be 3 minus 0.3. So we got the range of values as 3 plus or minus 0.3, which is nothing but 2 plus 1 plus or minus 0.2 plus 0.1. So we can justify the equation that we have already shown here, A plus B plus or minus delta A plus delta B. So we are able to justify that equation. Next we will move on to subtraction. Subtraction. Let us say D is equal to, difference D is equal to P minus Q. Whereas same P is equal to A plus or minus delta A, Q is equal to B plus or minus delta B. Yes. It is very tempting to us to write P minus Q as, see, P is equal to, this is nothing but A plus or minus delta A minus B plus or minus delta B. So for us it is very tempting to write the true value to be A minus B and the error to be delta A minus delta B. If you write like this, it says that the error in B, delta B, is trying to reduce the overall error when you are finding the difference D. It is trying to reduce, but errors will never cancel each other, or when you are finding maximum possible error, the error will not reduce the overall error. Errors will always add up. So here you can never use delta A minus delta B. It has to be delta A plus delta B. Please remember that it is a very common mistake. I will prove this with the help of our previous example. P is 2 plus or minus 0.2 and Q is 1 plus or minus 0.1. So we will write down the maximum and minimum values. 2.2, 1.8, here 1.1 and 0.9. First we will subtract the maximum value and maximum value. 2.2 minus 1.1, which is equal to 1.1. Then 2.2 will see 2.2 and 0.9, the difference being 1.3. Then 1.8 and 1.1, the difference being 0.7. Then 1.8 minus 0.9, the difference being 0.2. 9. If you look at the maximum and minimum values of our results, the maximum value is 1.3 and the minimum value is 0.7. The minimum value is 0.7. So, and what is the true value of the subtraction? 2 minus 1. The true value is 2 minus 1, which is equal to 1. And here you got 1.3 as the maximum value and 0.7 as the minimum value. So, I can write it as 1 plus 0.3 and 1 minus 0.3. So, it is nothing but 2 minus 1, the difference between the true values, plus or minus 0.3, which is nothing but 0.2 plus 0.1. So, it clearly shows that errors do not cancel each other when we are discussing about maximum possible errors. Okay. So, that is why if P is equal to A plus or minus delta A and Q is equal to B plus or minus delta B, then P plus Q, which we have already seen, will be equal to A plus B plus or minus delta A plus delta B, while P minus Q is equal to A minus B plus or minus delta A plus delta B only. So, you have to please make a note of this plus symbol when you are calculating P minus Q. Next, we will move on to multiplication. So, when we are multiplying, let us write x is equal to P into Q. So, we have to write it as A plus or minus delta A and B plus or minus delta B are multiplied. So, now x is equal to PQ, we use a little bit of differentiation here. If you do not know differentiation also, we can understand in this way. A physical quantity x is a product of two quantities P and Q. So, the error in P and error in Q both are affecting the error in x. The error in P and error in Q will definitely both separately are affecting the error in x. So, first, when I am finding the error in x, delta x is equal to, I have to take P as constant and account for the error in Q plus Q as constant and account for the error in P. So, the sum of these two terms will give the overall error in x, which is equal to PQ, and the same result can be obtained with the help of differentiation as well. Now, delta x is equal to true value of P is nothing but A into error in Q is nothing but delta B plus true value of Q is equal to B multiplied by error in P, which is equal to delta A. So, from this, if I divide delta x by x, then we get it as A into delta B plus B into delta A divided by x. X is nothing but the product of P and Q. The product of their true values is equal to AB. So, this is equal to A into delta B divided by AB plus B into delta A divided by AB. So, cancelling the common terms in the numerator and denominator, we get delta A by A plus delta B by B. So, if you look at this equation, delta x divided by x, this is nothing but error divided by true value. Delta A by A or delta B by B, if you look at both, the numerator is error and the denominators have true values. So, error divided by true values, error divided by true value is always called relative error. So, this term error by true value, it is called relative error. And if you multiply the terms by 100, so what do you get? Delta x by x into 100 is equal to delta A by A into 100 plus delta B by B into 100. So, here When you multiply the relative error with 100, it is called percentage error. So these are all percentage errors. Okay. So when you are multiplying two terms P and Q, two physical quantities P and Q are multiplied to give X, the relative error in X is equal to sum of relative errors of P and Q. So if X is equal to PQ, same, I am just writing down the result. The relative error in X, delta X by X is equal to delta P divided by P plus delta Q divided by Q, which is nothing but delta A by A plus delta B divided by B. So when during multiplication, only thing that you have to remember is there is the two terms which are getting multiplied, the relative errors will get added. Okay. So delta X by X, and if you want to calculate the percentage errors also will get added. The same thing, we have already written that delta X by X into 100 is equal to delta A by A into 100 plus delta B divided by B into 100. So these are the results of multiplication. Now next we are going to look at division. What is the meaning of division? Suppose we are finding P by Q. So this can be written as P into Q power minus 1. So here it is P power 1 into Q power minus 1. So generally what we tend to write, suppose if this is Y is equal to P by Q. When we are writing, we will write delta Y by Y is equal to delta Y by Y is equal to delta P by P. We tend to write it as minus of delta Q by Q. When you use this negative symbol here, you are again saying the relative error in Q is actually reducing the error in overall value of Y, because it is getting subtracted. But this cannot happen when we are finding maximum possible error. Maximum possible errors will never cancel each other. They will never reduce each other. So it will be plus. So it is delta P by P plus delta Q by Q. I want to give you a very general equation here. Suppose if a physical quantity, called F is equal to A power M into B power N, or another physical quantity G is equal to A power M divided by B power N, which can be written as A power M into B power minus N. In either case, see M and N may be negative or positive, but in either case you can write delta F by F is equal to modulus M into delta A by A plus modulus of N into delta B by B. So only positive values are to be taken. So you have to take only the positive values. So I am just erasing this short form, I will write it fully. Only positive values of the powers or exponents are to be taken when we are finding it. The reason, very simple reason, is errors will never cancel each other. That is the concept. Now you can ask, I will only ask you a question and then I will try to explain it. See, when I say there is a physical quantity, again some physical quantity H is equal to P by Q, just for an example. Now assume P is increased and Q is decreased. What will happen to the overall fraction value? When you increase the numerator, the value of fraction has to increase. When you decrease the denominator, the value of fraction again has to increase. If you take both, because of P and because of Q, both H value is increasing. But now if P is increasing and Q is also increasing, what will happen? Because of increase in numerator, the value of fraction will increase, while because of increase in denominator, the value of fraction has to decrease. So there is a chance that there is no change in the value of h. So, in problems or in some numericals, see, this statement is very important. In some numericals, okay, in some numericals, when increase or decrease is mentioned in the numerical, when increase or decrease is mentioned, that is when the sign of the power matters. The size of the sign of the power will matter only when there is a mention about increase or decrease. See, for example, h is equal to P by Q. Okay. Now, they said the percentage increase in P is equal to 2%. It is increase. That means delta P by P into 100 is equal to plus 2%. Okay. And the percentage decrease in P in Q is equal to 1%. That means delta Q by Q into 100 is equal to minus 1%. Okay. Now, we are asked to find out what is the percentage change in H. In this given data, they have mentioned increase and decrease, and they are asking us whether H has increased or decreased. This numerical has nothing to do with maximum possible errors. This has only to do with whether H is increasing or decreasing and by what percentage. So, delta H by H into 100 will be equal to delta P by P into 100 minus delta Q by Q into 100, because we are not finding the maximum possible error here. To say maximum possible errors will never cancel each other. We are only finding whether it is increasing or decreasing, and P by Q can be written as P into Q minus 1. That is why the sign will come into picture, and we will write it as delta H by H into 100 is equal to delta P by P into 100 is plus 2%, plus 2 minus of delta Q by Q into 100 is minus 1. So, we will substitute with the sign. So, it will be 3%. That means the percentage increase in measuring the quantity H is equal to plus 3%. That means H is increasing or decreasing? It is increasing by 3%. So, only when increase or decrease is mentioned, only when experiments are mentioned, during these two cases only, you will take the sign of percentage change. You will also take the sign of the exponent. So, I will generalize and give this as a result to you. If some physical quantity J is equal to P power M divided by Q power N, and in the given data the increase or decrease is mentioned. When it is mentioned, then you write delta J by J into 100 is equal to M into delta P by P into 100 minus N into delta Q by Q into 100. Now, when maximum possible error is mentioned, when maximum possible error is mentioned, then delta J by J into 100 will be equal to M times delta P by P into 100 plus N times delta Q by Q into 100. So, you need to understand when the sign is coming into picture and when the sign is not coming into picture. So, this is the end of error analysis. So, we have seen addition. What is the maximum possible error when we are adding two physical quantities? It will be delta A plus delta B. What is the maximum possible error when we are subtracting? Then also it is delta A plus delta B. When we are multiplying, the relative errors get added. When the two terms are multiplying but with exponents, then in that case, all like you will take, I will take already we have seen that example. When j is equal to p power m, or see our earlier example, x is equal to pq, there you have written the relative error in p plus the relative error in q will be equal to relative error in x. Also, if x is equal to p power m into q power n, then relative error in x will be equal to exponent times relative error in p plus exponent of q times relative error in q. And also we have seen the division with powers involved, and when increase and decrease is mentioned, what is going to happen? So this is the end of error analysis. We will move on to our next topic, significant figures. First of all, what is the English meaning of the word significant? The word significant means important. Significant means important. Now, why are these figures, numbers important? In this context of units, dimensions and measurements, the meaning of the word important figures refers to the fact that these numbers are important in determining the accuracy level of a particular value. See, for example, if you take the numerical values 2.3 and 2.30, 2.300, all are looking the same. Numerically, all are equal. 2.3, 2.30, 2.300, all are equal numerically. But if you look in terms of measurements, in 2.3, see, they say very clearly, it is correct only 2.3. Using that measuring instrument, you can measure 2.3 or next you can measure 2.4 only. You are not able to measure or you are not able to tell very confidently that the next digit is not at all there. Like how I said in the beginning, when the length of this pen is 12.2 millimeter, I was able to tell only 12. That means I am not able to tell very clearly about what the next digit is 0 or not. So I can say here, after 2.3, I can measure only 2.4. I wasn't able to say anything about the next digit. So this is accurate only up to one digit after the decimal point. But if you check 2.30, we are very sure that after 3 there is 0. After 3 there is 0. That means we are confidently telling it is not 2.31, it is not 2.33, it is not 3.38, it is it is not 2.31, it is not 2.33, it is not 2.38, it is 2.30. That is what its meaning. So, and we are not able to tell about the third number. We are not confident about what the third digit after decimal is going to be. So, this is accurate up to 2 digits after decimal point. Okay. Next one, we are confident up to 3 digits. We know it is 2.300 exactly. It is not 2.301. It is not 2.305. It is not any of that. It is accurate only, or it is accurate up to 3 digits after decimal point. So, if you see here, the number of overall digits or figures that are telling us about the accuracy is only 2. Here, the 0 which is after the decimal number also is adding to the accuracy. It says 2.30 is more accurate than 2.3. So, here there are 3 significant figures, important digits that are telling us about the accuracy of that measuring or measured value. So, here there are 4. So, to determine the number of significant figures, we have certain rules and regulations. The first one, I will tell you an easy method how to remember all this. First, let us talk about all numbers. There are two types of numbers. One is non-zeros and another one is zeros. And they said all non-zeros are significant. So you have to count all the non-zero digits wherever they are. And zeros, there are three types of zeros. First is zeros which come in between two non-zeros. Okay, I'll just erase and make it little neat. Second one, zeros zeros in decimal numbers. Zeros in integers. Now in zeros in decimal numbers, you have zeros again which are leading and which are trailing. Here also you have leading zeros and trailing zeros. First, they said all non-zeros are significant. First, so you have to count all the non-zeros, and zeros which come in between two non-zeros, they are also significant. So you have to count zeros which are coming in between two non-zeros. In decimal numbers, the trailing zeros means the zeros which are coming at the end. These are the zeros which are coming at the end. They are significant. Leading zeros, the zeros which are coming at the front in the beginning, they are not significant. Not significant. In integers, it is little tricky. I will explain with examples. Now I will start giving examples for all these things. First one, see, you can take a screenshot and keep about these things. How the numbers, what are the different types of numbers present and where they come. Okay, now I am going to help you with an example. Suppose I say 123, all are non-zeros, so there are 3 significant figures. Next I say 1023, 0 is coming in between the non-zeros, so there are 4. 10035, so here the zeros are coming in the middle of non-zeros, so here there are 5 significant figures. Now coming to decimal numbers, if I say 1.230, there are 3 non-zeros and 1 zero which is coming at the end. This is a trailing zero, so there are 4 significant figures. Next, if there is 1.2030, there are 3 non-zeros, 1 zero coming in the middle of non-zeros and another one is a trailing zero of a decimal number, so to all become significant, which is this. Suppose I say 0.003020. Total number of digits are 7 in this given number, but there are leading zeros in a decimal number, so all these are not significant. 3 is a non-zero, 2 is a non-zero, they become significant. The another zero which is in between the two non-zeros will become significant, and since this is a decimal number, the trailing zero also becomes significant. So total number of significant figures are 4. So this is about trailing zeros and leading zeros in a decimal number. Now coming to zeros in a non-decimal number, in integers. Suppose I write 0, 0, 1, 2, 3. The trailing zeros are never significant. The trailing zeros are never significant. Here there are only 3. 1, 2, 3. They are the non-zeros. Now I write 1, 2, 3, 0, 0. If we are writing 12,300, here if nothing is mentioned, no units are mentioned, nothing is mentioned, there are only 3. Leading zeros, sorry, here trailing zeros will not be significant if nothing is mentioned. But if it is mentioned like this, 1, 2, 3, 0, 0 and a bar or a dot, 1, 2, 3, 0, 0, a bar or a dot is mentioned, this says that this number is significant or this number is accurate only up to where you put a bar or a mark. So in these cases you have 4 significant figures. Okay, or you have to check for a unit. Suppose if I write 12,300 meter, then it has 5 significant figures whenever you talk about units. So either you have to put a small line on the top of the 0 to say it is accurate up to that particular 0, or you have to put a dot on a top of a 0 saying that it is accurate only up that particular 0. I will tell you another example. 1000 and we put a dot at the top of the last 0. So till that 0 all are significant. So how many significant figures are there? There are 4 significant figures. Okay. So this is about determining the number of significant figures in a given number. Now we will quickly see the arithmetic operations. Arithmetic operations. See, when we are doing, here we are talking about accuracy of the number that is coming out as a result of arithmetic operations. Means when you are adding, when you are subtracting, multiplying or dividing, how the number of significant figures are changing. I would like to tell with an example. Assume that we have a long chain. A chain is made up of so many links. A chain is made up of so many links. Now here you made a very strong, you made 100 strong links, but there is a one weak link which is not properly manufactured. When we are trying to pull it, which will be the first link that will break? The link that will break will be the weakest. So a chain can never be stronger. A chain can never be stronger than its weakest link. So this is the statement I would like to bring when we are discussing significant figures. The following are the arithmetic operations that we perform using significant figures. See, during the explanation to introduction, I have already told you that no chain is stronger than its weakest link. Likewise, no calculation can be more accurate than the least accurate value that is participating in the calculation. So when we are performing addition, subtraction, multiplication or division, any of the arithmetic operation, the answer, the value, the result of the arithmetic operation should have the same number of significant figures as that of the least significant value that is participating in the calculation. For example, if I have 2.03 plus 1.3. We are adding 2 digits, one is 2.03 and another one is 1.3. In 2.03 we have 3 significant figures and in 1.3 we have 2 significant figures. So here the least accurate value or the value with the least number of significant figures is 1.3. So the result should not be more accurate than 1.3. That means the answer to this should have only 2 significant figures. So which is, by adding, first we get 2.03 plus 1.3 will be equal to 3.33. This 3.33 has 3 significant figures, but according to the rule it should have only 2 significant figures. So we have to start rounding off from the last number. The trailing number has to be rounded off. Now what are the rules for rounding off? Rounding off. If the last number is greater than 5, the first rule, if the last number is greater than 5, then you have to add 1 to the previous number. So add 1 to previous number. Add 1 to the previous number and you can remove this number. Second, if last number is less than 5, last number is less than 5, you can remove it as it is. You need not do anything with the other digits. You can remove it and it won't affect the rounding off. So, remove that number. When the last number is equal to 5, when the last number is equal to 5, then you have two cases here. You have to check whether the previous number is an odd number or even number. In this case, there are two things. If the previous number is odd and here the previous number is even. If the previous number is odd, you will add 1 to that odd number and make it even. So, you have to add plus 1 to the previous number. And if it is even, it has to be removed as it is. See, for example, 1.25 and 1.35. The last number is equal to 5 in both these examples. In the case of 1.25, the previous number is 2, which is an even number. So, what we have to do? We have to simply remove this last number. When you round it off, it will become 1.2. There are only two significant figures now. Likewise, in the number 1.35, see the last digit is equal to 5 and the previous number is an odd number, 3. So, you have to add 1 to that previous number, it becomes 1.4. So, these are the rules for rounding off. So, when we come back to our example, 2.03 plus 1.3, the answer should have only two significant figures, but we have 3 here. So, to round it off to two significant digits, you have to remove the last number and the last number is equal to 3, which is less than 5. So, you can remove it as it is and you can write it as 3.3. That is the correct reading. So, when we are performing subtraction, when we are performing multiplication, see for example, if I am multiplying, another example, 3.14 multiplied by 2.765. I am not performing the multiplication here, but in 3.14 we have 3 significant figures. In 2.765 we have 4 significant figures. Now, the answer, the output that you are getting, the answer should have only 3 significant figures. So, you have to choose one of the options which has only 3 significant figures. So, please round it off. After calculating this, you have to round it off to 3 significant figures. That is how you select. So, when we are performing all these arithmetic operation, the more you see, other than calculations, another important aspect is to count the number of significant figures in each case and in each number, and then give the least number of significant digits to the final answer. So, this is the end of significant figures, and I would like to thank you all for watching this video, and I hope I will try to make this, and I will definitely try to make this even more creative in my upcoming videos. And I also believe that you are all enjoying the way the physics is being taught to you, so that your encouragement gives me a lot of courage, and it helps me to take my time off and to get in touch with you guys. As I always say, please see the video, share the video, and subscribe the channel. Thank you so much. See you soon with much more to come. Thank you.